Hello everyone. So there was a question on the community about adding some additional attributes to the release page. Now in Jira, and especially in Jira software, we have an option to, of course, create releases, and these releases are basically or these releases will appear in the field called as a fixed version or affected versions. And if you're talking about, let us say, software development projects, you would use these releases to identify, to mark your upcoming planned releases, usually your software releases. But when you create a new release, for example, if you go to the release tab or release section on the left hand side, and if you click on the create version, you do have an option here. Like, let us say I have to create a version 3.2, whatever, 2.2.1, right? And good thing about these releases or the fixed version here is that you can actually store information, a bit more information apart from name, like release date, but also a start date. Now this is all good, and I quite like this idea, and I think we now have this new option called driver, which somehow came. I don't really know if Atlassian announced this or not, but when you are creating a new release or a new version, let us say this is a new version of our product. If you click on the save button, it will of course show you the information, and you can go to the actual release, and if you have some issues associated with it, for example, for this release CPR February, I can see details of the issue. And actually we do have like some information here, but that information, that additional information actually comes not really from the attributes. So we don't really have, first of all, at least without using an app, to store some additional information. And when you start working on the issues and you start tagging your issues with your releases, your fixed versions, it will use the information. For example, this roadmap or this release detail view will give you things like, okay, what is the like description? If you want to add some description, it will also show you the dates. It will also show you this driver, and contributor is, I believe, will come from the reporter or assignee, or basically someone who is working on the issues. And you can see the release status, whether it is released or not released, and you can add release notes. But we don't really have the option to create additional attributes. And I thought I'll probably talk about it because I would like to know what additional information you want to store on the release itself. I mean, I'm sure there are ways. Not really ways, but I'm sure there are use cases. And usually when it comes to releases, I can tell you from my experience, because this is what I do every day. Usually when people create these releases, they also want to associate, let us say, a team, right? Now, they think that when they create these versions, they need to associate a version with a team, or basically in a way say that this particular team would be working on this version. And that is not how things work in Jira. In Jira, all the association of users, or maybe a team field if you're using advanced roadmap, to the work item, basically the issue, it happens using the issue, right? And that is where a fixed version also come into picture. So whenever someone is doing something in Jira, they are basically doing something in basically one of those issues. And then based on that issue or different issues, you can then analyze, you can actually derive something. For example, when we talk about releases, the whole idea behind a release is to release something, and you have dates, and you have, of course, a couple of things like status, whether this release is released or maybe if you want to archive it. And the rest of the information actually comes, and you can analyze it using the issues that are part of these releases. And you can also have something like sprints, right? Because when you're working, if you're following, let us say, Agile, and you want to have Scrum-based approach methodology, you would plan, commit those stories, issues to be delivered in your sprints. And it can take maybe one or two or multiple sprints to actually release something, because maybe you have a release sometime in September, but you need like couple of or maybe 4 sprints to reach there. So these are like different from each other. Sometimes people want to do a one-to-one mapping, like one sprint is equal to one fixed version, and then they of course ask me why we need to create fixed version. Can we just use sprints? So these things, if you're not sure in the beginning, if you're new to Jira, then of course consider asking on the community or hire a consultant to get more information. And I think irrespective of your level in your organization, I mean, not level, what is the right word? Basically your maturity level, when it comes to using Jira, you need some competency. It could be an internal Jira competency, or it could be, hiring some external consultant, maybe, on need basis. And when it comes to doing consultation, it is, of course, you're doing things on the tool like Jira, and you need admin knowledge. That is, of course, the prerequisite, but it is actually much more than Jira admin knowledge. You actually need to, someone who has experience actually delivering projects. People who have experience working in service desk, or maybe people who have been leads or project managers, or maybe they were software developers in their past life. So people who actually do things, deliver things, they know what they want from the tool, and at the same time, with the help of some Jira knowledge, I mean, of course, you can build it internally, but you need to use Jira wisely, and you need to use Jira wisely at the same time thinking about the problems that you want to solve right now, but more importantly, what problems you want to solve in future. It is okay if you have one release, one sprint, or if you're releasing after every sprint, but make it a practice to use fixed versions along with sprints, so that in future you may not have a release after every sprint, right? So if you're using fixed versions, then of course all your reporting will work wonderfully well. Because if you don't use fixed versions and you're releasing something, you would not be able to utilize this wonderful view here, where you have a lot of information, and at the same time you're doing something which is deviating from the norm. Because if people are using Jira and they have been using Jira in the past, then in a way they would also expect that why fixed versions are not being used. So try to use the basic features of the tool for what they are supposed to be for, and of course, when you're using these features together, then in most cases, based on my experience, I can tell you, in most cases, things work. And when I looked at that question on the community, the question about adding some additional fields, I'm sure I have the answer, but I wanted to know why that person wanted to add additional information on the fixed version or releases. So that is it for this video. I hope I have given you some ideas, and hopefully you found this video useful and you learned something new. Thank you very much.